Hello everyone, this is Gene and I'm back with another video. I've actually been doing videos fairly consistently, which has been the first time in a while. But before I go to bed tonight, I wanted to sort of address this that I've seen floating online. Um, I thought about just waiting until tomorrow, but I was like, you know what? It's Friday night. I can't sleep, so let me do it now. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. But I've seen this image floating around, floating in my feed, given that I follow a lot of people who are commentators or give their opinions on comics or comics fans. And this, in my opinion, this panel, which comes from the story, the news story, from what I know, Batman Fortress, I believe it's called, written by Gary Whitta. It is further just another example of the absolute disrespect that DC has for its classic heroes. Even one like Batman, where at least from what I hear, they are pretty much relying on to the point of like oversaturation with the comics, right? And you just had the latest Batman movie recently with Robert Pattinson and all that. All right, so we have this panel here where Batman is observing a riot. Right now, I know the panels are very hard to read because this is Twitter, but I have it pulled up on my phone, and I will read the panels and the dialogue from there so that you get a better understanding of what is happening and what's not happening here. Right. So in the top panel, it says, "Haven't seen a night like this in a while. Last time it was this bad was that damn fear gas in the water supply." Then it goes to the actual riot itself, so the second panel. Right? And remember, these are Bruce's thoughts, right? These panels are not dialogue, they're Bruce's thoughts. So these are his musings, his reasonings, his justifications to himself, right? His opinions about what's going on here and the role he will and will not play in this situation. So just keep that in mind as I go over this. Right, so next panels around the big box store that's being looted say, "Only so much I can do, need to prioritize." Bruce Wayne, prioritizing. Really. But anyway, hunt the big fish, protect the little fish. Now we're on to the panel where you see the guy yelling and screaming and you see the rioters. "These places all have insurance, not my job to protect their profit margins." Then it goes to the one where you see the TV from Wayne Industries being looted. It says, "In my father's day, the American dream used to mean something. An honest wage for honest work. Food on the table. Liberty and justice for all." So I'm guessing this is what, Gotham in the 50s or the 40s? Under, what was it, Eisenhower? Anyway, now it's an illusion. Now you have the focus on Batman's face here. Now it's an illusion, a carrot on a stick, attainable by a few, dangled just out of reach for anyone else. A bigger TV, a faster car, shiny objects to keep the masses distracted, while the world around them burns. You want to blame them for grabbing the carrot when the lights go out? Go ahead. But don't look to me to stop them. That's not why I do this. Now, unless the person under the cowl in this situation is not Bruce Wayne or not anybody who's been trained or influenced by him, like the Robins, right? Or even alternate universe Elseworlds characters like Terry McGinnis or whatever, right? Unless it is a complete bait and switch in that we're supposed to read this and go, wait a second, that's not Bruce. He wouldn't do that. But nothing I've come across as of yet has indicated that this is supposed to be some sort of bait and switch or setup where it's going to be revealed that this really isn't Bruce Wayne or anybody who would have been trained or influenced by him. So until I see different, I'm taking it on faith. I'm taking it as I see it, and this appears to be Bruce Wayne reasoning on this in this manner. And to Mr. Whitta, if this is indeed supposed to be Bruce, then uh, you don't know anything. You don't even know the most casual thing about what motivates Bruce Wayne. Because this entire panel, all these little thought boxes, run anathema to the character and his very motivations. First of all, Bruce is a businessman. He's a billionaire. He comes from old money, right? As we see, the TV being looted is a Wayne Industries TV, right? So there's many businesses across the city. Bruce, because he's a businessman, would understand the damage done monetarily by looting, because you have to repair the store. Nobody's going to give you money for this, or if they do, they give you very little bit of money, right? You have to deal with insurance, which guess what? Doesn't always cover everything. Insurance premiums go up when incidents of crime happen, especially if it's already in a high crime neighborhood, which tend to be in lower income areas, right? People lose the money they make because they can't sell merchandise, they can't have customers, right? Several of their workers are not going to come in for fear of their safety, right? This does not help businesses at all, right? And to have Bruce Wayne, a businessman, muse that he's not there to protect their profit margins is simply absolutely disgusting. To protect their businesses would be, by extension, to protect the people who rely on that business, the people who own it, the people who work there, the people who shop there, in particular those who live in the area and depend on it. Right? Bruce, just from a business perspective, would not just sit there and literally watch this happen. Right? He wouldn't do that. It would make absolutely no business sense for him to do this, especially since this is a big box store, right? They're stealing a piece of merchandise from Wayne Industries, but it's doubtful that this is a Wayne Industries business. It's probably just a regular, mom and pop shop, right? Or some, brand store, right? Meaning that the workers there don't make a lot of money as it is, right? And now this riot's going to cost them a day's pay, if not more, of work. So it takes food out of their mouths. It takes some money out of the mouths of the people who franchise the business or own the building or own the business or whatever it is. Because now you have to remember, it's a storefront, so you have to pay rent, you have to pay for electricity, utilities, communication, merchandise, which they would have to replace. Again, from a business perspective, this makes absolutely no sense for Bruce to be so laissez-faire about it, and to literally pretty much muse that he refuses to act on their behalf because he's not there to support their profit margins. This isn't about profit margins, this is about livelihoods. When stuff like this goes unchecked in the real world, it's not the rich businessman who suffers. Bruce could, easily absorb these costs. Just like in real life, men like Musk and Bezos can absorb the cost. You know who can't absorb the cost? The people, the regular person, the customer, the employee, the employer, who are oftentimes older or people of color or immigrants. The people that we're supposed to champion and defend, and yet, as we see here, which is obviously influenced by the real world riots of 2020, we're supposed to believe that letting this happen unabated, having not even the fictional crime fighter intervene, is okay. They literally have him a reason that he has to prioritize. Prioritize what? It's not even listed of like what other crimes he has to balance this against, right? For example, does he have to balance intervening in this with chasing down Joker or Mr. Zaz or Riddler or Scarecrow, Killer Croc? Does he have to balance this with, say, intervening in a more immediate situation like someone being actively murdered or raped? Right? If you're going to float this idea of he makes a conscious choice to not intervene, perhaps it's better to create a situation like, have him have to choose between intervening in this or intervening in an equally important uh, situation. But to have him literally stand there and watch, right, and not do anything and muse, hey, I don't care about their businesses. I'm not doing this for the profit margins. Is absolutely disgusting and anathema to who the character is. Bruce's entire war on crime is a personal choice. If he's going to reason that he's not going to act because it's not my job, right? It's not his job to protect the profit margins, then why does he suddenly think it's his job to protect the whole city? Your logic makes no sense in this situation. If he feels it's not his responsibility to protect their business, why does he feel it's his responsibility to protect their very lives? These aren't people he knows personally. They're not his employees. They're not his family. Everything Bruce does as Batman is purely optional. It's not a job. He doesn't get paid for it. Right? It's not a moral obligation. It's not a legal obligation. This is not his profession. He's not a cop. Right? He's not a state trooper. He's not law enforcement or military. The whole point of Batman is that he's a rich man who is a victim of a crime, and because he was so traumatized, he decides that he's going to become the ultimate crime fighter and wage his own personal war against crime, no matter what the crime is. Why would he stand there and watch when he has an opportunity to intervene? If he can sit there and muse, he can intervene. Right? This does not explain one bit, other than him just not giving a damn, why he's not trying to at least disperse the crowd. You're telling me that he can't just throw a batarang or a smoke bomb, a flashbang, something, right, to frighten the crowd and make them disperse? You're telling me he can't do that? You're telling me that he can't inform Gordon, through all that high tech in his mask, or some other member of the Bat family, right? Some of the Robins or Batgirl, Batwoman, or whatever it is. You're telling me even Red Hood, even Jason Todd would not stand around and watch this happen, right? There is no universe except Mr. Whitta's head where this happens. You want me to believe this story, this panel, Gary Whitta wants me to believe that the same Batman who wore himself out, right, trying to quell a prison riot in Nightfall. This is exactly why Bane's able to break his back. Bruce literally wears himself out trying to stop a prison riot, if I remember it correctly. Right? You want me to believe that same guy is now here going, not my problem. They can afford the insurance. There's no way in hell for 1 second that Bruce Wayne makes that's his reasoning. That's his justification. This is completely anathema to who Batman is as a character, right? What he represents as a character, right? And especially, and again, I know this wasn't written or produced anywhere near what just happened in Texas. But given what just happened in Texas, right, whether you want to or not, you look at something like this in a different light. The idea of somebody who could protect you, right? Who theoretically is supposed to put their life on the line to protect you, because that's the personal choice he made. Sitting there and watching your business burn and watching again people fight. Did you see these people with these weapons, right? People get hurt and not intervene because he feels that it's not his problem. That's not Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne views crime as his responsibility to fight back against, and he's always viewed it that way. Otherwise, the character is broken. It makes no sense. This line of reasoning coming from Bruce Wayne in particular makes absolutely no kind of sense. We've already had panels like there was some Batwoman comic a while back where like Barbara is like, standing with protesters and shouting and supporting them, right? But at least she was as Barbara Gordon, right? That was her civilian persona. I disagreed with it, but at least she was not in costume. Bruce is in costume here, right? He's Batman, right? And you're this is what you think he would do. You clearly modeled this after the real world riots, and you think that if Batman were real, he would just sit there and let this happen. You, sir, don't understand how heroism works. Not just how Batman works, but how heroism works. Right? Bruce wouldn't do this. Bruce wouldn't stand by idly. Criminals would, right? Joker would be standing there cackling because he loves to see the pain and chaos. But Bruce wouldn't. Bruce would not stand by idly when he can do something, right? It's different if he's like injured or he's restrained or somehow. But there's no indication of that here. That there's some reason why he can't intervene. Other than, I just don't want to. I don't want to protect their profit margins. The same profit margins that allow them to put food on the table and employ other people so that they can put food on the table. But hey, who's counting? Because every business owner is a Jeff Bezos-esque billionaire or a Musk-esque billionaire, right? It's not like the majority of small businesses, which is probably what this store is, fail within the first 3 to 5 years because making money when you're a new business is incredibly difficult, and it's more likely you will fail or barely make it than succeed for a few years, right? A lot of companies are in the red, right, or are just breaking even for a very long time, for several years until they start generating a profit. But I don't think Mr. Whitta knows anything about business or the struggles of running a business or how expensive it can be even for a small business to get the funding it needs just to get started, let alone get off the ground. But this is not Batman, right? All this to say that this is not Batman. The Batman I know, the Batman I admire, the Batman that I was a huge fan of and fell in love with as a little kid, is the one who breaks through the skylight, right? In the 89 Keaton film. And he beats up the bad guys and he rescues the girl, right? The Batman I grew up with is the Batman from the animated series, who risked his life and risked his safety just to save and stop somebody like Baby Doll, right? This child actress who's forever trapped in a child's body, right, is pointing a gun at him 1 minute, but because he's able to empathize with her, he's able to get her to stand down. The Batman that I grew up with is the one who would risk his life for a stranger, who would risk his life for his friends, who does crazy things like try to dig Wonder Woman out of a hole when he thinks that she's been killed. A scene in Justice League where she's like, she's trying to control the descent in this missile or whatever it is. It's like a Planet of the Apes thing, right? And she ends up crashing in the ground and everything, and Bruce thinks that, she's been killed or she's hurt. He's trying to dig through, and you think about it, it's like, bruh. Right? That's the Bruce Wayne I grew up with. That's the Batman I grew up with. The Batman I grew up with sits by a dangerous child and gets her to stand down by empathizing with her and holding her hand in her last moments, by being that vulnerable little kid again, to make another child feel a little less alone and a little less afraid. That's the Batman I grew up with. The Batman I grew up with is a character like in the, I believe it's called Batman War on Crime. The art was done by Alex Ross, right? And there's a series of panels where a young black man, a young black kid, I think it's Marcus, right, points a gun, and there's tears in the boy's eyes. He points a gun at Batman. And again, Batman uses his empathy, right, explaining to him that he shouldn't go down this road because they've both lost their loved ones to violence. And the boy puts down the gun, and Batman hugs him, right? The Batman that I grew up with won't even do something like kill the Joker. Even when Jokers hurt him so much, even when Jokers hurt his loved ones, like Barbara in Killing Joke, or Jason Todd, right, murdering Jason Todd in an especially gruesome manner in Jesus, what is it? Death in the Family, right? That is the Batman I know, who even when he has a chance to take out his worst enemies, he won't take it. He won't kill them because he believes that there's however small the chance, that there's a chance that they can be rehabilitated or at least taken off the streets. That's the Batman I know. That's the Batman I grew up with. That is why, even as a grumpy ass 37-year-old woman, when I have to go into a building or an office or whatever that enforces these ever so annoying mask rules, this is the mask I wear. This one. I have several of these. I wear this, as silly as it is, because I don't agree with the mask mandates. But when I have to obey them, this is the mask I wear. And when I am asked why I wear this mask, of all the masks you could wear, why I wear a comic book themed mask, I tell people the same thing. Because I still believe in heroes. And I believe in that hero. I believe in Batman. When you see things like another shooting, it makes you sorely wish that guys like Batman and Superman and Captain America and Wolverine and the X-Men and all that were real. Sadly, they're not. All we have are fallible humans who don't always make the right choice, who sometimes are seized by cowardice or being overly cautious or whatever prevents them from acting where they should have acted. Again, a lot of information is still coming out about the shooter and what the cops did or didn't do or what their reasonings for it were. Right? Times like this remind you all too starkly of just how vulnerable you are and how powerless and helpless you are and how much you really wish heroes were real, or at least heroes like Batman were real. So to take a symbol of hope, which is what Bruce is. Batman is a symbol of hope. He's a symbol of protection. Perhaps not in the same way Superman is, but that's still what he represents, at least to me. So to take a symbol of hope and to break him, to break his spirit, is again just incredibly insulting. This isn't Batman. This is some selfish rich dude in a costume, but it's not Batman. Batman, Bruce Wayne, is too selfless an individual, too giving an individual, too caring an individual to let something like this slide. Now, again, maybe this is all just one big joke, and maybe later on in the story it's revealed that this isn't really Bruce Wayne, or he's been possessed or something. But from what I've seen of this, I haven't seen anything yet that would indicate that this is the case. It seems to be Bruce. And if this is Mr. Whitta's idea of Bruce, then, sir, may you never, ever, ever, ever write Bruce Wayne again. A follower of mine on Twitter wrote, I'm going to see if I can find it. I'm going to pause this and see if I could find it. There was a follower of mine on Twitter who wrote a very touching sort of alternate version of this scene. So I'm going to pause this and try to pull that up. Where is it? Pause. Alright, it's recording. So I wanted to read this by Orin Darklord, right? So he writes, right, and again, it's supposed to be an alternate take on, this, right? These panels up here. So, Orin writes, on a night like this, it's triage. Lives have to come before property. I radio Gordon with the ride's location and facial recognition on the looters from my cow. It'll have to be enough. The Wayne Foundation will make sure the victims get back on their feet. This simple paragraph, written on Twitter, is more in line with who and what Bruce Wayne is as a character than all of these panels and thought boxes here. Orin Darklord, in a Twitter comic, has demonstrated that he understands Batman's psychology better than a writer that DC literally hired and paid to write this. Sad state of affairs, but nothing new. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day and night wherever you are. Bye.